But speaking, I guess we can take on to the next episode or the next article, leaving for you to read, is a game that I'm sure most people forgot about, other than remembering occasionally, like, oh yeah, what was that total bust?
Yeah, seriously. Meme game, baby, meme game. All right,
Get us into it, dude.
so this is actually an interesting one. This is coming out of Kotaku. A little bit of an opinion piece, but I think it has some valid points. So it's called 5 years ago. Anthem was a warning. BioWare's Destiny killer may be gone, but oh, how its legacy lives on. I'm embarrassed because I literally looked up this guy's last name before I even joined the call to start this, and I've forgotten the name. To be honest, I think it's like Steven Nasark, something like that. It's something crazy. I think it's Steven Nasark. I think so. Anyway, Steven, the man. All right, listen. So, it's a relatively short article, so I'll just read the whole thing. But he says on January 2019, so it's kind of a little bit of a setup about this. So I'm reading this again from Steven's perspective. And he said, on January 2019, I was optimistic when I flew out to BioWare's headquarters in Austin, Texas. I've been invited to test out Anthem, studio's take on the live service looter shooter, before it made its way to players' hands. I was immediately smitten by the polish of the demo, zipping around levels like I was Iron Man in this javelin suit and blasting bugs with elemental guns. At the time, I was convinced that Anthem would have been a generationally defining title. Just pause there for a second. That countless future AAA games would have to emulate. Turns out, many of them did, even if they shouldn't have. It's just like crazy. I read that and I was like, dude, it's just crazy how bullish people were on by the early access and just like going to play it. It's like, what? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show it's like you can have the best mechanics in the world, but if you have terrible like business practices, you can ruin everything, and nobody wants to be around it.
Yep. And remember, again, this is at the time of BioWare's pedigree as one of the best RPG crafters in the business, thanks to masterpieces like Mass Effect Trilogy, Knights of the Old Republic, and Dragon Age Origins.
People were so excited. Oh my god.
Oh man. Probably swayed some opinions a bit, yeah. Probably. So, and he said, sure, 2017's Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't exactly beloved on release and had a troubled 5-year development cycle, but Steven had hoped that BioWare had learned its lesson by that point. As many people, I'm sure, hoped. It's like, dude, Andromeda I remember that was such a disaster. That game just looks so bad. It's like, just the animations and everything
so many
terrible.
Bugs, dude.
Like, oh, it looks so bad. But yeah, there was a lot of hype around Anthem for sure. But when the demo was released to the public a few weeks later, 5-minute loading screens and buggy flying sent my hopes cratering down to earth. When you could get into the game, Anthem had players take control of freelancers piloting one of 4 javelins, taking part in missions that either involved killing bugs and aliens or setting up towers. That gameplay loop got boring quickly, and the loot you needed to farm barely made you feel stronger, making the grind that much more boring. Outside of flying, there wasn't a compelling reason to play. Bad loot and a looter shooter? What are we doing, Mike? What are we doing, dude?
The game was so bad, man. Like, it fell off so quickly that I think they were trying to, like... I remember I went to GameStop and they had $5 to $10 versions of Anthem and, like, 3 rows filled.
Sealed,
with it.
baby.
Yeah, because everybody thought it was going to be great. It's like, dude, fun, but no reward system at all.
Yeah. The game's technical limitations and lackluster gameplay were the signs of the troubled 5-year-long development cycle that saw the creative team shift directions, lose dozens of employees, and overhaul the concept from the ground up multiple times. Not just once, multiple times.
Yeah.
Rebuild it again.
So many red flags.
EA and BioWare released a few patches over the next year, adding seasonal content and fixing some game-breaking bugs and audio issues, but it wasn't enough to get the game airborne. BioWare's general manager, Casey Hudson, I remember this, wrote in a February 2020 blog post right before the pandemic. He said that Anthem was going to be a substantial reinvention, or was going to get a substantial reinvention. But the hopes this announcement conjured were dashed in February of 2021 when BioWare studio director Christian Daly announced in another blog that development for Anthem was ending for good. 5 years later, Anthem's been mostly forgotten, relegated to clearance bins and memes about the one-time hopes it might have been a Destiny killer. Clearance bin, Anthem, baby.
Destiny killed itself, dude. That's how crazy it is.
The servers are still online. Too many people's surprise. But since EA
Yeah.
controls them, there's no way to tell how many freelancers are still hunting the Urgoth in the never-ending chaos of the Cataclysm. And then that's kind of the setup, right? Then we get to kind of the main kind of meat of the article. So he says, over the past decade, we've seen a massive rise in live service games with huge AAA budgets that close after failing to find an audience. For every multi-million-dollar contender like Fortnite or League of Legends, there are countless flops like Spacepunks, Crossfire X, and Paragon. I remember Paragon. Poor Paragon, you know.
I remember Crossfire X.
Yep. These titles require studios to grow their staff quickly, spend eye-watering sums of money, and hope that the trend will still be profitable and popular in 2 to 3 years. According to a recent industry survey, there are over 500 live service games currently either in development or being maintained, which we had covered on the podcast. It's just wild to think that kind of number.
It still blows my mind every time we see it.
Yeah, no kidding. Some studios are finally learning that live service is not always a guaranteed cash cow, and in retrospect, Anthem feels like an early symptom of the carnage we're seeing now. Bandai Namco recently took a big financial hit after its Genshin-like Blue Protocol failed to garner interest. Warner Brothers said that their recently released looter shooter Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had fallen short of expectations, in quotes. Last year, Sony announced it was delaying 6 of its 12 planned live service titles, which included Naughty Dog's Last of Us multiplayer game, which was later announced that it was going to be officially canceled at the tail end of 2023. On February 27th, which is, which we just covered, like literally.
Yeah, we literally just covered
2 articles ago. PlayStation is laying off nearly 1,000 people, reportedly including a team of UK studio Firesprite that was working on an unannounced Twisted Metal live service project. And he concludes with this. He believes we've reached a point in the games industry where trends are moving faster than development cycles, and the results are
calamitous.
Calamitous. There it is. Thank you.
I got you, bro.
You saved me. And that sentence I think was so crazy. And I was like reading that, I was like, I never thought about it like that, but yeah. Like I feel like trends, like we're getting to the point where it takes so long to make games that like the trend's just like dead by the time it's done. I feel like, at least in some cases.
Yeah, I got a take for you. I don't think the trends are the issue. I think the execution is the issue. I think if you make a good game, people are going to play your good game. The fact that these games are just not good. Like Space Punks, Crossfire X, Paragon. Like I get you're trying to follow a trend of a different genre. Anthem doing the same thing, looter shooters. But if you can't make it fun, like if you don't have the mechanics right, and you can clearly see it's just like there's another competitor that you are emulating that does it better than you, and you offer nothing else, it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna fail. Like of course you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
There's like here's a good way to say it, right? So like Arma 3, modders created Battle Royale in Arma 3. What was the next big trend that came up? Okay, DayZ. DayZ was pretty popular. I think that was also a mod of Arma 3. Possibly.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I think it was originally, yeah.
And then people decided, you know what, like then a new game comes out, PUBG, which is still insanely popular. But that's like they always needs to be progressing and becoming better. That's why like Fortnite is the biggest battle royale right now, and it will be for a long time because they keep reinventing it, but they're also adding more and more like reasons to play, more different categories. There's like that's why it's good. You can't just have a looter shooter rating like Destiny and everybody loves it and they're having fun. I mean, not so much now, but like in its heyday, it was a prime game that everybody loved to play. It ran great and it was good, like decent story. And then Anthem comes out and you're just like, so what's the point of this? What am I doing again? To grind? Oh yeah, it's EA. So grind to get a loot box. Okay, I got my loot box. Now what do I need to do? Pay $5 extra for a key to open it? It's like, dude, you're not giving me a good experience. I have things to do with my time,
Yeah.
I think that's why these games fall flat on their face. I don't think it's like just following a trend. Just you're not making a good game. You're trying to get in on it for all the wrong reasons when you should be getting in on it to make a good game, regardless of the trend.
It's a fair point. I agree with that. It's yeah, I mean, it's obviously you want to make a good game first. I think too. I also just think too is like what I really thought about it after reading this. It's like, yeah, like Anthem probably was like an early sign for some of these games that just ended up kind of flopping. Of like, you know, if you don't make
the first one,
don't make the content that's good, then it's not gonna work. And then, but yeah, you just get so many other games where it's like, oh, we'll make it live service and we'll try to maintain it, and it's like just so expensive. I feel like to have continuous development and try and come up with new content, and it's like if the game doesn't do well, it like fails very quickly because you just don't have the funds to keep making the content. So
yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, live service games are kind of a plague, I feel like. And I also think it's pretty unfortunate that you have modern, like traditional titles that feel like they need to turn into a live service game. And by doing that, they're rushing production of the game, and the game isn't fully complete when it launches. So you get like everybody joining because the IP is so big and everybody knows it. And then when loaded up, it's like, why did we regress? Why is there less things, less components in the game? And they're just like, well, it's live service, so we're going to start updating it. And every season, we're going to add what you used to have back. It's just like, how about I just go play what I used to play? Like, I don't need to be here. So, or they wait for another game that comes out. And I also think that might be a rise why single player games and PvE games are becoming more and more popular, is people are fed up with the live service. They're like, let's just go play a complete game.
Yeah, it's an overall perspective shift. Just kind of, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a, what do you call it? Like, I don't know. Just trying to speculate, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's just wild. Like when I think about that, kind of Anthem is, I think, a sign for some games, but also just like, it was kind of, I feel like what started just what seemed like a trend of just bad releases and unfinished live service games, and just like lackluster live service games. It's like, it all kind of made sense in the end. But
thank you for watching the M2 podcast. If you'd like to see the full unedited version of the last episode you just saw, check the description below. Remember to like and subscribe. Take it easy.